Mr.Falcon!
It's been a while since my last Tokusatsu introduction video, and while I wanted my next one to be either for Ultraman or Super Sentai, I'm still too fresh in both of those franchises to do a video to the extent of my previous Kamen Rider intro vid, which even then during that video I was still a bit of a newbie. Which is why for this edition of Tokusatsu introduction, I decided to go with a Toku franchise that I'm a bit more familiar with, as well as something that's relatively underrated among the Tokusatsu community, being the Metal Hero franchise. Like the previous video, I will be highlighting the history of the franchise, what makes it so appealing in the first place, as well as wrap up with some recommendations. Now, going into the history of the Metal Heroes, unlike many other Toku franchises, I couldn't find a whole bunch on its exact origin, outside the fact that the franchise was created by Toei when Kamen Rider was going on a bit of a break from TV series after Kamen Rider Super 1. Since the 80s, in which this franchise debuted in, saw the rise of numerous technologies, the Metal Hero series' main theme was showing its audience how these great machines in the right hands can be used for good. Unlike Kamen Rider and Super Sentai at the time, Metal Heroes were aimed at a slightly older teenage audience, with even a good portion of Metal Hero series being well received by adults. Though this does not include the final two Metal Hero series being Kabutak and Robotak, which due to being so different from previous series, with its more kid-oriented nature, even Toei themselves don't consider it part of the Metal Hero franchise anymore. Which would make the B-Fighter series the final of the Metal Heroes. And yes, sadly the Metal Hero series for the most part has ended, only lasting from 1982 to 1997. If we're saying B-Fighter Kabuto was the final edition of the Metal Heroes. However, like most Tokusatsu franchises, the Metal Heroes did make its way to the West in some heavily edited fashion, with series like VR Troopers, which took various Metal Hero series like Metalder, Spielbahn, and Scheider, as well as the Big Bad Beetleborgs, which took from the B-Fighter series, both of which were done by Saban, who we all know brought us Power Rangers. With that brief history out of the way, let's get into what makes the Metal Hero franchise so good. And to me personally, alongside Garo, I feel it's one of the most ambitious Tokusatsu franchises out there. When compared to Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, Metal Heroes just feels a bit more experimental among Toei's Toku lineup, as Metal Heroes constantly reinvented itself. The first three series, Gavan, Charivan, and Scheider, went under the name of the Space Sheriff series, which followed, well, space sheriffs fighting against evil alien syndicates, and surprisingly all had a bit of continuity with each other. Once the Space Sheriff trilogy was done, Metal Heroes went about trying new concepts for series that still retain elements of Space Sheriffs like Just Beyond and Spielbahn, though each of these injected a few new things, like Just Beyond having more of a focus on giant monster battles. However, after that, the types of Metal Hero series we got varied massively, like Metalder, which was heavily inspired by Shotaro Ishinomori's Kikaider series, which I've previously made a video on, so be sure to check that out too if you haven't already. We also got Jiban and Jan Person, which were basically Japanese Robocops, which is funny considering that the first Metal Hero series, Space Sheriff Gavan, did play a role in influencing the design for the original Robocop. Then we have Jiraiya and Blue SWAT, which really pushed the boundaries of what made a Metal Hero, as Jiraiya was a fantasy ninja series and Blue SWAT was about an alien-busting SWAT team, with their metal armors basically being what made them Metal Heroes, when compared to the various others that were either people or even aliens in some cases in high-tech battle armor, cyborgs, or even straight-up robots. However, among all these mentioned, we still had a few more continuity-based series, like the Rescue Police series, which contained Windspector, Soulbrain, and Exceed Draft, which was less about fighting monsters and more on fighting against criminals or helping people from disasters that the police couldn't. And the last proper Metal Hero series we got belonged to the B-Fighter series, which included Junko B-Fighter and B-Fighter Kabuto. As mentioned before, Toei doesn't really consider Kabutak and Robotak to be a part of the Metal Hero franchise anymore. And all that right there is just some insane variation between series. But going beyond that, Metal Heroes has a lot of just awesome creativity and amazing designs. I mean, real quick on the designs, my god, all these Metal Heroes look awesome. Like, I have no problem with any of them, they're all perfect to me. Though maybe I am a bit biased here, since I am a sucker for Toku costumes that look like actual armor rather than just looking like leather or spandex. But even away from the designs, there's just so much cool stuff to be found in each series. Throughout the Space Sheriffs, during the battles against the Monster of the Week, the Space Sheriffs would normally be transferred into like this weird subspace zone where we're treated to some really awesome and unique visuals and set pieces. While I've only watched the first episode of Just Beyond, so I'm not sure if this aspect of the series continues on throughout the rest of the series, I really did love the first episode as it did an amazing job in making the planet in the first episode feel like a truly alien world with its own inhabitants and ecosystem, alongside just a variety of special effects, which is normally an insta-win for me. Other series like Jan Person and Metalder have not just one, but multiple evil organizations the heroes have to fight against, which led to a nice variety of enemies, as well as some interesting storylines, as organizations team up or fight against each other in order to accomplish their goals. Even some fight scenes are done really uniquely here, like the mentioned fights in the subspace zones and Space Sheriffs, and then you have the first episode of Jan Person, which just has this really unique indoor fight scene that I can't say I've seen in a lot of other tokusatsu beforehand. And if all of this wasn't enough, Metal Heroes also has the added benefit of having a majority of their openings, endings, and insert themes being sung by Akira Kushida. Who is Akira Kushida, you may ask? Well, let's just say he's one of the hypest guys you could ever get to do a song for you. Many might know him these days for doing the amazing Ultra Instinct theme in Dragon Ball Super, or even doing the opening for Toriko. If you're an old school anime fan like me, you may also know him from doing the original 3 Kinnikuman openings, and its first ending, which in my opinion are some of the best and catchiest in shonen history. And well, let's just say his work on Metal Heroes is just as, if not better in some cases, than the songs I just mentioned. The Gavan theme is god tier. Now really, so far my experience with Metal Heroes has been fantastic. However, sadly, as I mentioned before, Metal Heroes aren't super popular among an already niche fan base, meaning that a good portion of the franchise hasn't been subbed yet, or at least fully subbed, limiting a lot of the recommendations I can make. And honestly, I would say just pick a series that looks the most interesting to you. And so far I haven't had a problem with any of them, but let's get into some personal picks. First off is obviously the Space Sheriff trilogy to see where it all began. Just remember to watch it in order, being Gavan, Cherivan, and Scheider. Metalder is also a very good place to start, and with it taking cues from Android Kikaider, which is an already fantastic superhero series, you know Metalder is going to be a fun ride. If you want some Japanese RoboCop action, then definitely check out Jan Person, or Lady Battle Cop, but that's a video for another day. Jan Person isn't fully subbed yet, but the 26 episodes are there online, and so far from what I've seen, it's been very enjoyable. Jan Person is also unique in that most of Jan Person's enemies are either cyber-enhanced people or other robots, rather than monsters or aliens, which is pretty cool. And Jan Person's vehicle is like one of the coolest. I guess my final recommendation is Just Beyond. As mentioned earlier, I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but the first episode was definitely a treat. Plus, who doesn't love a good giant monster battle? And for fuck's sakes, the villain's name in this series is called Satan Goth. Also, Just Beyond is one of the very few Metal Hero series to receive an official English release. Again, these are just some really quick recommendations. Feel free to jump in wherever, as long as it's not in the middle of a larger series like Space Sheriffs, Rescue Police, or B-Fighter. As amazing as the Metal Heroes were, they sadly are not made anymore. Sure, they still appear in a lot of Sentai series as guests, or make appearances in big crossover movies and specials like the recent Gavan vs. Deca Rangers special, though that's still very sad that they're no longer being made, as they just were so experimental and different from many other toku out there. In 2012 there was a Gavan reboot movie, which gave us a new person to take the helm as Gavan, as well as 2014 doing the same for the other Space Sheriffs. Rumor has it that in Brazil, a studio is planning on doing a Just Beyond movie, though supposedly more details will come out in 2019, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. One can only hope Metal Heroes will eventually make a comeback as a franchise, but at least for now, for what we have, we definitely have loads and loads of fun. And with that, I am Mr.Falconpunch. I hope this video helped you get into Metal Heroes, or if you're already a fan of Metal Heroes, I hope this video just made you happy by seeing someone else talk about it, since, you know, let's face it, the Metal Hero fan base is very, very small. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.